Please help support the channel by visiting our Amazon store, affiliate link below. Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo, this is 3 Buck Theater, and with Star Wars The Last Jedi simply a few weeks away, I don't know about you, but man, I'm hyped. I'm so damn hyped for this film. I'm hoping it's going to be good, even though I'm still a little apprehensive about Rian Johnson being the person at the helm. This mostly has to do with the fact that I felt both Brick and Looper were okay movies. Brick arguably much better than Looper because it was drastically different in how the whole thing was put together. And Looper was just an interesting story that had really horrible telekinetic abilities thrown into the mix. And I did make a joke on Twitter when it was announced that Rian Johnson would be making his own Star Wars trilogy separate from the current episodic sagas. That he finally would have a use for adding in telekinesis, but just in the, form of force push or force pull or force anything. So he'll now have the ability to play in that world and have it actually make sense to the context of the story. But that being said, one of the interesting tidbits coming out of news leading up to the release of Star Wars Episode 8 is whether or not we will see fan favorite Lando Calrissian making an appearance in the movie. It would almost feel like a no-brainer given everything that went on with The Force Awakens and the fact that it was kind of, almost not a beat-for-beat retelling of A New Hope, but it played in the same sandbox pretty well, and you figured that they would want to continue the trend of bringing back in those characters from Empire or Jedi that didn't make it into, this one, that are maybe still kicking it around somewhere in the universe. But it turns out the answer to that is no. Rian Johnson did let it slip, kind of. Well, not kind of. He actually admitted it in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, where he says that no, and I don't want fans to get their hopes up. He's not in the film, and it was never something that came up. I mean, I loved that character. It would have been fun to see him, but it's not something that ever really had a place in the story. So essentially, if you listen to what he's saying like it never really came up at all. Like Lando was never a part of the conversation. When planning out the events of Star Wars Episode 8, they were just like, well, what can we do with Rey and Finn and Poe and keep it at about that, right? And I know that Carrie Fisher plays a big part in it, as we saw in the trailers. There's going to be a lot there between her and Kylo, which I think is going to be an interesting dynamic considering what happened. But it doesn't make a lot of sense to me on just a fan front, simply because, well, what about Han's funeral, right? Now, it's not to say that it's going to be guaranteed in the movie, but back in June or July of July 2016, Carrie Fisher was at an event, and this is 6 months before her untimely passing, but she was at an event and someone asked her, what is Leia been up to since the events of The Force Awakens? And she says, Han's funeral. So that was the first thing she said. Then she quickly, quipped over to something else. But that right there felt like a slip. It felt like a slip of the tongue. We've had reports of Han's funeral for a while now, even going as far earlier this year of some leaked photos being described as possibly being Han's funeral. Now we're hearing, that Rian Johnson's also not confirming that Luke and Leia will have an on-screen reunion in this film. Never mind the fact that behind-the-scenes photos place both, Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher on set together in costume. So it's one of those things where it's like either he's being just like purposefully, misleading as to not generate hype or to not give away spoilers, or, there was a lot of stuff that's changed from what we heard a year ago. Because it doesn't make sense to me on a funeral scene front to not bring in Lando. It just doesn't make sense to me. We know that Donald Glover is playing young Lando Calrissian in the upcoming Solo film. We know that was a big thing, that making sure he was in there, because of course this is all about how Han Solo gets the Millennium Falcon. So that movie comes out in 6 months, right? May of next year, just a few months past The Last Jedi. So obviously they want to build up that character. They'd want to bring Billy Dee back, even if it's just for a cameo appearance at the damn funeral scene that we've heard is happening. Now, if you look at the end of The Force Awakens, Rey and R2-D2 and Chewie are with the Millennium Falcon off meeting Luke. And from the trailers from The Last Jedi, it shows that she's been conducting her training on that planet and she hasn't gone anywhere else, which means, at least what it says to me, is that if there was a funeral scene, a memorial scene, they're not there. All right, so it would be Leia and 3PO. Now, that's not really enough to mourn Han Solo. Because at this point, when they want to mourn the death of Han Solo, they want to convey it in a way that is essentially going to push the audience in that favor, right? They're going to want to push it in a way, I should say, where the audience is going to have to be reflected in who's there, or the extra cast members they bring in for cameo appearances are going to have to play that game. Ultimately, though, I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to do that, and especially if this is to be believed to be true. Billy Dee confirmed himself, though, that he wasn't in the movie, and then Rian Johnson just kind of backed it up. So if we have a Han Solo scene and they never even went to Billy Dee to be in it, I do kind of look at that as a slight against fans. I look at it as just a bit of a slap in the face. It's like, why didn't? It's not like Billy Dee's doing anything. You can't be all like, hey, yo, Billy, why don't you come over to London? Come into Pinewood. We're going to do this scene. We could use you as a cameo appearance for Han Solo's funeral. Like, oh, dog, all right, I'm in, man. Fly over, done. That simple. So it tells me either if Rian Johnson is being truthful, that the scene doesn't exist, or he's lying and trying to play it off as something that, is in the movie, but they don't want to confirm, kind of like Luke and Leia never being on screen together, which is something he said the other day. So there's that. But anyway, what do you guys think about this? Do you think that it's possible that that Lando will make an appearance, or do you think that there was really no need for him to show up at all, or do you even care about a Han Solo funeral at all? Let me know in the comments below. I will talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great day, and peace out.